after first service, my sweet husband said, "Is that a new blouse?" And I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "It doesn't go with the quilt behind you." It's so Paul, exactly. Thank you for sharing, sweetheart. But the choir has it right, black and white. Then you can do this. I never think about the quilt, I know, so maybe now I'll have to. Oh, that was a great song. Thank you. Fill me up. Fill me up. This week after the rain, I was walking around the wetlands near our property, near where we live, and it was so amazing because the title of this talk is God's Wealth. And the blue sky, the clouds were so perfectly white, the birds were chirping, yeah, on, and I just felt God's wealth was just raining down on me, and it felt so good. Then I had to got home, and to write a half-hour talk, it's like, I only have 3 sentences. The birds were chirping, the bright, I felt God's wealth. I thought, this is going to be an interesting thing. But when I talk about God's wealth, when I think about it, it's an amazing thing. It has to be to all of us that universal intelligence, which is my word for God, would create human beings with total freedom. Freedom to think on our own, freedom to solve problems, freedom to give and receive love, and be part of the larger creation. And to have a body that operates on autopilot. Aren't we glad? Our food digests, the cells do what they do, and that to me is a real bit of God's wealth. But doggone it, also in God's creation, is we have to figure out how the universe works on our own. Where's our workbook? Where's the book that just says, here it is? No, we have to figure it out on our own. Because it feels like we live in a paradox of light and dark, good and bad. And it's up to us to figure out what part of that paradox will bring us more happiness versus more unhappiness, I guess I would say. So after thousands of years, we're still learning this. And if you've been in this philosophy for a while, you've heard the law of mental equivalence, the law of cause and effect. And is Dion here this morning? Dion Paulette is the director of our players group. They put on 2 wonderful plays. And he's in the class I'm doing called Practical Mysticism, which digs deep to find out what our beliefs really are. And he said, after class, you know what? My goal for these plays was to make a little bit of money to share with the actors. And guess what? He shared a little bit of money. And he said, I've got to up my ante here. Absolutely. He said, we're gonna do better than that. So Adrian, remember that when because he was just like, I get it now. Most of history, wealth has been focused on money or hundreds of years ago, how many cows you had and how much property you had. But to me, God's wealth is made up of 2 things. Number 1, us. We're pretty amazing. And number 2, the whole universe of planets, stars, Earth, everything that was ever created. And so I pulled this book off my shelf. It's called The Hand of God. And it's pictures from the Hubble telescope of deep space. And I just get so inspired when I look at these. And I wanted to share a couple with you this morning. This is a picture of Saturn's rings that have been color enhanced. And they just are so inspiring. And the quote is from Wernher von Braun, if you know that name. And here's what he wrote. As science explains more of the intriguing mysteries of life in the universe, it expands into those areas which we previously didn't know about or just accepted by faith. We are observers of the universe. We're the experimenter. We're the searcher for truth. we're not a spectator alone. We're a participant in the infinite process of creation. We are the highest product of that creation. So I was right. We're number one. So this brings me back to the 1920s when Ernest Holmes was writing The Science of Mind. He had read all the sacred texts and all the world's spiritual religious beliefs, and he synthesized what he learned. And here's his conclusion. We think with our conscious mind, and those thoughts and beliefs are stored in subconscious mind, which is connected with universal mind, with God. Here is the creative process that automatically goes to work to produce the thing or experience we've focused on and we believe in. Now, if you've been around, you know that. You've heard it a zillion times. But sometimes, maybe when you hear it today, you'll hear it in a little bit different way. So our thoughts are seeds that are planted in the soil of subconscious mind, and we keep watering them with our desires or with whatever belief or emotional things we're thinking about. And in that soil, there's an energy that manifests something like that, an energy that manifests something like that in our life. So it's not just our current thoughts, but it's all the thoughts and beliefs we've had. So we can say, I'm 72, forget 71 years of my life. God, I only want to plant seeds today. Forget the rest. No, they're there. So I may be putting positive seeds in subconscious mind, but whatever else is there, it's going to harmonize that and produce an effect in my life. So that's why we have all these core classes that help you figure out what's really in there that is still impacting your life. What beliefs did you forget about that are still swimming in there? And then when you give it lots of love, it says, well, you didn't bring me up far enough. You know, we got a little ways to go to really bring you to true happiness in life. So it's an unconscious process that takes what is and makes it happen. Dr. Holmes' words, whatever man thinks, whether good or bad, falls into this creative medium and it acts upon it unless it's neutralized. It can be neutralized. It's just like having a big vase of dirty water after you take the flowers out. You pour enough clear water in there, eventually it will clear up. So it can be neutralized. And that's what a practitioner or minister can help you do. Start putting in positive truths, positive beliefs, replacing those things with life-affirming statements. Now, what von Braun meant in his quote when he said we're a participant in the continuing process of creation, we are the highest product of God's creation. Because in the Bible it says, and the Word was made. The Word was spoken, the Word created the universe. At first there was a word. The word comes from our mind too, so we're this little mini creative process. One of the people that impressed Dr. Holmes the most was Judge Thomas Troward. And he was a judge that the Majesty in England appointed him to the northern area of India in the Punjab as a judge. And you know, when you go to India, you can't help be surrounded by spiritual ideas from all the deep beliefs they have there. And so when he retired in 1896, he was really a great student of spiritual metaphysics and went back to England. In his research, here's what he wrote. I'm looking for something I think is called the personal factor. That creative power in every person that arranges their thoughts and beliefs and sets up a train of causation. A train of causation in motion that harmonizes those energies in your life. So yesterday, I was returning from the Veterans Cemetery from a memorial, and I was driving down 273, and here came this huge train. 5 engines pulling at least 100 cars. I went, there it is. There's the creative process. The thoughts and beliefs we put in subconscious mind are the engines of the cars. Now, is the first car filled with love? Is the second car filled with joy? Is the third car filled with happiness? Is the fourth car filled with anxiety? How about the fifth car? Disappointment, anger, hate. So it's a mixed bag. Here's a train going by, pulled by 5 powerful engines. What are we putting in those cars? That subconscious mind is gathering the energy, harmonizing it, and giving it back. Troward said, a train full of negativity has the power of self-destruction. You know, I look around the world and I see a lot of self-destruction. People doing things that not only destroy others, but that destroy themselves as well. And so I have to think about that. What's in my train? What's in every car of my train? Here's another thing Troward said, and I swear I've read this book 10 times and I never read this before. The cosmos, the universe, came into existence due to the self-contemplation of God. Well, we believe that. That's in Science of Mind, of course, because Holmes read Troward and loved Troward. But from this, Troward deducted that material form is a necessary outcome of the creative process. A necessary outcome of the creative process. Because material form can't remake material form. Our thoughts and beliefs make form through the creative process. This is followed by what spirit does with the energy, since there's infinite possibilities. If you've ever had a deep desire and something came, for some reason it got resolved, you know, I would have never thought it could come that way. I would have never thought it would show up that way in my life. That's because there's infinite possibilities. And matter is the polar opposite of spirit. I had not connected that until the train and the engines and the cars and Troward. You know, when I learned about the creative process, it reminded me of a time many years, not too many years ago, but enough years ago, that I left a job in Puget Sound for the pulp and paper industry and came to Anderson for a job at a power plant that was being built. And they were looking for someone who was experienced in buying wood fiber from sawmills, because that's what they used to create the electricity. And this company that was looking for this fiber buyer had just signed a 3-year contract with the company building the power plant, because the company building the power plant didn't want any risk. So they put out a big notice looking for a company that will guarantee our wood supply. And in the contract was this clause that, and if you don't perform, it's going to cost you millions. Well, the company I went to work for already had 3 little power plants in Boerne, Westwood, and Oroville. And so they thought, okay, we'll just get a consultant to study this and tell us where the wood's going to come from, and we'll consider signing this contract. So the consultant, I to this day don't know who it is because I don't want to know who it was. He drew a line around the power plant. He says, you can get all the wood you need in a 50-mile radius. And they went, piece of cake, we're going to make money. This is good. They forgot about the penalty. So I sent in my resume, and they flew me to Los Angeles one morning from Puget Sound, and I thought, oh, this will be nice. I'll be home a little after lunch. But the interview lasted 7 hours. To their surprise, they knew nothing about the wood fiber market. The consultant knew nothing about the wood fiber market. And so it was easy for me to poke holes in his report, because honestly, the wood fiber market is the West Coast. It flows up and down the West Coast depending on supply and demand, not in a 50-mile radius. There was not this plant was going to use 100 semi-truckloads a day, 7 days a week. So every week they needed 700 semi-truckloads of wood, and it was not just laying around. It would have buried Anderson, most likely. So anyway, after my 7-hour interview, they hired me, and they said, you have 2 major goals. Go find that darn wood and get us out of this contract without paying a penalty. Whoa, get me out of my own job after I save your company. So I hired staff, and we trained on this, and actually in 4 months we did it. And it was all the creative process, because I refused to have anybody around me that said you can't do it, or holy cow. So we had a clear vision, positive energy, and every day we pounded the soil and pounded the ground and drove hundreds of miles finding where in the world we would find this wood. And it took a lot of creativity to find sources that weren't sources at the moment and create them. So I've proven this creative process to myself many times. And I know in order to get better results, we have to re-image the situation. I had to think there were piles of wood fiber sitting at the power plant. There were coal logs in the yard, didn't know where they'd come from, but I could visualize it. And I increased my faith in that. It just kind of came natural to me at the time. And then enthusiasm, because the power plant manager who was watching this plant get constructed, he's going, yeah, well, we'll see what you're really going to do. And then they came to us one day and sat down in a luncheon, all smiles, and he said, oh, by the way, we're opening up a month early. 2,800 semi-trucks of wood early. Anyway, I just smiled. I said, no problem. He's like, what? So anyway, it was one of the most incredible experiences in my life. Obviously, I can't quit talking about it when it comes to the creative process. But in chapter 6 of the Science of Mind text, the chapter's called Man's Relationship to the Spiritual Universe. Holmes' premise is very simple. Whatever is true of the universe as a whole must be true of humanity as part of this whole. We live an enhanced life when we choose to express life through the characteristics of God, peace, power, beauty, and joy. That enhances our life. It's a natural process. But we live an even greater enhanced life when we follow the laws of cause and effect, the law of the creative process. And we have principles, the power of love, freedom, eternal life, goodness. How much goodness the world needs today. Holmes clearly states that all suffering is the result of some infringement of these laws. So what does that mean to us here on a Sunday in October? You know, we've all had the potential to reach a point of total frenzy at the news the last few weeks. We've all had the potential to do that. At the same time, we all have the potential to send love and respect to those who need it the most. Or to condemn or hate them. Hey, put that in my train. Not. That's my opinion. But we all had the choice of how we're going to build our train on the creative process. On page 301 in the text, Science of Mind text, Holmes writes, if we allow the world's opinion to control our thinking, that will be our demonstration. It will be reflected in our life. So every day we should ask ourselves, am I helping society realize the power of love? Are my words showing others the way to judge, hate, mistrust others, or to condemn others? What am I putting into those rail cars on that train of causation? If you remember, a few weeks ago, I talked about Genevieve Barron. This is her little book, The Power, Your Invisible Power. There's 4 copies left in the bookstore. They're only $5 each. It's a fabulous little book. In 1910, She read the Edinburgh Lectures by Thomas Troward, the one who inspired Holmes so much. And she determined she was going to go study with him. So she wrote him a letter and he didn't respond. Wrote him another letter, he didn't respond. Wrote him another letter, he didn't respond. So she said, hey, I'll just go to England and talk to him. So she figured it was going to cost her $20,000 to take a steamer to England and get a place to live. So she did what Troward said in the Edinburgh Lectures. You have to visualize. You have to know what's available. You have to see it. You have to feel it. So every morning and every evening, she would sit down and she would put down in her mind 20 $1,000 bills. She visualized herself on the deck of this beautiful steamer, wind in the hair, you know. She visualized herself sitting with Troward as a student. She visualized all that. And so in 6 weeks, she had $20,000. Came from many different places. So she went to England, and there wasn't email at the time. I'm trying to think, was it telegraph or something used back in 1910? Anyway, she telegraphed him that she was here and she was ready, and he telegraphed back, sorry, no. She did it a few more times, and she said, can I at least talk to you? And he goes, okay, already. No, yeah, might. But so she went and talked to him, and he said, finally, okay, I'll give you 6 months. So he gave her 6 months of training. This is the years, 1915, he published this book, Creative Process. This is when he was writing this. Can you imagine sitting with Troward and learning all this? So when she was done, she went back to New York City and she started a college in mental science. And she ran that for 10 years. Then she went to LA and started a college of mental science. And then she traveled the country for 35 years teaching this. So she really had it down. She really had it down. And it's fun to read about her interactions with Troward in her little book. It's just absolutely a delight. Okay, I already said all this. Okay, so on page 80 of this book called The Hand of God, there's a cluster of stars. You can't see it really well, but you kind of get the hint of it. And I don't like the way they name these stars. They call it Hodge 301. That doesn't mean anything. But it's in the nebula called the Tarantula Nebula. It's the most violent area of the sky, the Tarantula Nebula. I never heard of that. The quote beside it is by John Updike. And here's what he said. Physicists are getting things down to the nitty-gritty. They've really just about pared things down to the ultimate details. And the last thing they ever expected to happen is happening. God is showing through. They've been scraping away at physical reality all these centuries. And now the layer of the little bit left that we don't understand is so fine. I see God's face staring right at me. That just is so inspiring to me. I love it. So if you would like to expand God's wealth in any area of your life, think of one of those areas, whether it's relationships or job or health or abundance. I'd like to read this meditation on page 304 of the Science of Mind, and it's just for you. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect, and that life is my life now. Opportunities in the area that I am focused on this morning are unlimited. My life is supported by this divine urge to express, which permeates me and fills all space. As I focus on the successful outcome of this area, all my affairs are in its hands, and it automatically knows the best ways of expressing. I trust this principle. I create with it. Spirit flows through me, inspiring me, and sustains that inspiration. I have the ability, the power, and I'm busy using it. Life lies open to me. My thought, the key to life, opens all doors for me. I am one with infinite divinity. Realizing this unity, I proceed on my way each day as one who knows that God goes with me into a day of infinite privilege. I open the portals of my soul and accept that which is ready to express through me. So today I fling these portals open wide. Today I am the instrument through which my life flows. I give great thanks, and so it is. Thank you.